Hey, this is David Hayter. You may know me as the screenwriter of films like X-Men, X-Men 2, and Watchmen, but you probably know me best as the voice of Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And you're listening to Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. Kept you waiting, huh?
The Kasanova Podcast, the #1 podcast in Hawaii, is brought to you by these contributors on Patreon. If you'd like to see more content like this more often, as well as more podcast reviews, impressions, early access releases, live streams, and original content, then consider becoming a patron today. And welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Miguela Kasanova, and I have the honor and privilege of having the one, the only Sean Fee, who is the Chief Commercial Officer for XSplit and SplitmediaLabs Limited. Sean, how are you doing today?
Hi, Miguel. How are you?
Good. Your day is just starting. It's early there, isn't it?
It is, yes. You can see the sun out here in sunny London. So it's 9:15 in the morning, and yeah, that's the start of my day, usually around 9 a.m.
Okay, cool. Are you having to work from home, or are you able to go to your office, or?
Yeah, so our company is actually like a Hong Kong company. Mm-hmm. And the majority of our team, we have a big development center in the Philippines, in Manila. Mm-hmm. And so the majority of our team are based out there. I'm based in London. I used to be in Los Angeles. Actually, I just moved here in November. And,
wow.
So I work from home in general. I do a lot of traveling. So I like to be in a main hub where I can get to many places quite quickly. But generally speaking, I work from home anyway. So this whole lockdown situation is not entirely unique for me, but it's a bit tougher than usual in that you're not able to go out to the coffee shops, and I can't even do meetings, can't even travel to conferences and things like that. So
okay. What like I know here in Hawaii, like the most we have as far as like we've got the whole quarantine thing going on, and we've also had attempts to do like complete just stay at home, like you can't go anywhere. I think they ran that for probably 3 or 4 days. It didn't last long. But what is it like where you're at? Like how is is it to the point where like you can still go grocery shopping or buy household needs? Or
Yeah, we're well, I mean, we in London, they took quite a while to lock it down, so they were trying to go really soft and rely on people to self-isolate themselves and minimize their contact with other people. That didn't really work out so well, so they kind of had to lock it down a bit more forcefully, but we're still able to go out to the supermarkets. There's the whole 2-meter distancing thing. There's queues everywhere you go. But you still see plenty of people walking around the streets and stuff. It's just the general businesses aren't open, and people are trying their best to stay away from public places. But with weather, like you can kind of see out the side here in the window, it's getting more and more difficult, especially like in a place like England, where they see about 20 days like this per year. So everyone's heading to the beaches, and I see that's happening in the States a fair bit too. You guys in Hawaii are probably very used to the good weather and the beaches, so it's no big deal. But yeah, for us, it's becoming more and more difficult as the summer kind of rolls on. So yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's really difficult, especially because I live about 2 minutes away from Waikiki, where my house is. I literally have, if I go to my kitchen and look out my kitchen window, like I've got a clear view of Diamond Head Crater. and then Waikiki Beach right there. And every day I'm just looking at it like, I want to go to the beach.
Wow, it makes you appreciate the everyday things that we used to have, right? So, I mean, you should be appreciating that view and that location every day.
Yeah.
So I hope now you do, or if you didn't before, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. So, I know you said you recently moved to London. You were in Los Angeles. Are you originally from Los Angeles, or?
I'm not, and I'm actually Irish, so I understand I don't have a very strong Conor McGregor style Irish accent. So, you know, some people are like, "No, you're not Irish," but yeah, I'm Irish originally, but I haven't lived in Ireland for probably over 10 years now. So, and I grew up in Belgium, in Brussels, so my accent is very soft. But yeah, I basically tend to go where the business requires me to go. And I spent a couple of years in LA because obviously a lot of the games companies and studios are based out there. It's close enough to San Francisco, to some of the larger platforms, and you know, lots of them operate out of LA as well. So it was a good place to base kind of, you know, the business development piece of our business. But I moved here to London, as I said, like in November, because my fiance actually had to come here for work, and I get to be closer to home and closer to family. So I was very happy to do that.
Awesome. So, you know, you mind giving like the audience and myself like a bit of background on yourself, like how long have you been working within like the tech and gaming industry, and what drew you to it? Like, was some of the aspects you love?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I'm someone who grew up in the 80s. I was born in the 1980s. So I grew up in that whole era of, you know, the Nintendo Entertainment System. I was a Sega Mega Drive guy and a Sega Master System. I always wanted to kind of go against the popular choice. So I'd fight the Sega corner valiantly, but Nintendo was actually better, and everyone knew that. So yeah, I grew up during that whole kind of Nintendo v Sega thing, and obviously played PC games as soon as they kind of got to that point where the games started getting a little bit better. And so I've always been into gaming, but in terms of my sort of background in tech and you know, software and things like that, I started my career as an investment banker in Dublin. And a friend of mine called me. He was a chef who was working on super yachts. He was actually working on Paul Allen's super yacht, which is, he's a co-founder of Microsoft with Bill Gates.
Wow.
And he was like a private chef on that super yacht, doing loads of big parties and just, you know, taking care of Paul Allen's food and stuff. But at the same time, he was recording YouTube videos of himself cooking different meals, like how to make, you know, different risottos and steaks and stuff like that. And he was starting to rack up quite a few views on YouTube. So he called me and he said, "Hey, you know, do you want to do a business around this? Let's build a website that like teaches people how to cook through really cool videos and stuff like that." And so I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So that was 2007. So me and my friend, basically, that was my first startup, my first tech company. Tech/digital media content company. And so, yeah, we raised some capital. We set up the website. We went out and professionally filmed a bunch of videos with him, you know, doing very quick, easy to use, easy to follow videos on cooking food. And we launched that. We did that for a couple of years. We got some cool stuff out of it. We are actually on the British version of the Dragon's Den, which is like Shark Tank that you guys have.
Wow.
Yeah, so we pitched on that. We didn't manage to get funding, but we got close. We were named by Apple as one of the top 50 apps in the first year of the App Store and stuff like that, because it was one of the first iPhone apps to use video. So we had a couple of cool moments, but ultimately that business failed. You know, there was the recession in 2008. We tried to build the whole business based around advertising. The advertising market collapsed. So we had a pretty hard time trying to kind of keep things going. And after that, I moved into a company where we did video-based e-learning. So I built a company that basically used video online as a way to teach staff for companies all over the world. That did pretty good, and I left that in about 2012, 2013. So this is like, those are my first two. And then I was approached by a company that asked me to go out to Koh Samui in Thailand, a little tropical island off the coast of Thailand, to work with them on their startup. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm in. You want me to go and live by the beach, kind of have your life, and work on tech products. So that was a video platform, user generated content platform that was just starting out. And I did that for a couple of months. And at that point, I met a guy that I really, really liked in the company. He was an engineer. We got on great. We just had a great energy together. He was super smart, but he was kind of a junior engineer at the company. But like, he was very inquisitive, always like wanting things to be better and asking questions about everything. So I really noticed him, and kind of, you know, when things were winding down for that business, I said to him, we should look at where we can work together, and like, can we start something together and try something out? And the part of the platform that we were working on that was doing the best was the gaming section. But the management team were not so keen on gaming content because they thought it looked crap. They didn't like the look of it. They thought, you know, this is not good quality content. What we should be pulling like the gaming section off the website. And I'm like, but that's actually where everyone is hanging out. That's where people are actually engaging. So that was what kind of gave me and my new co-founder the impetus to look at gaming as a space that we could potentially build something cool. So we decided to effectively spin out and do our own startup, which was a website, a web platform called Player.me, which was what we were trying to build there, was like the about.me for gaming.
I use Player.me.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So I started that with my co-founder, Mac, from a villa in Thailand. He would just code all day. I'd start planning everything and organizing, you know, our resources and stuff. And then we'd jump into the pool and have little strategy sessions for 15 minutes and then hop back out and we'd start coding again. We get back to work. So, yeah, we built that out in Thailand over the space of about 6 to 9 months. We kind of worked on that together out there. And then I had to go off and try and get some money to keep this thing going, right? So anyway, fast forward a couple of years and we met with the SplitmediaLabs guys who are, you know, obviously doing XSplit and having big success in the gaming space, obviously doing broadcaster and gamecaster. And we had a chat with them in relation to they always had a vision to kind of, you know, build social features into XSplit, or sort of bring the community together of creators and kind of get some place, and hopefully that would have been XSplit, where, you know, creators could communicate with each other and help each other out and advise each other on best tools to use, best ways to create good quality content, stuff like that. So it seemed like, you know, our visions kind of aligned. I've always had a very strong interest in digital media, content-related web-based businesses, and live streaming, I think, is that next sort of evolution. We went from, like, you know, audio to video to now live audio is kind of coming back in there as well.
Yeah.
Video, short form stuff is coming back in there now. And it's a beautiful ecosystem of video, but like live is this one that's kind of just it's taken off over the last number of years, specifically in gaming. But I think we're just right at the start of seeing live across all segments of, you know, basically society and all kinds of industries adopting live. So, you know, we decided to join forces with SplitmediaLabs. And then over the last sort of 3 to 4 years, we've been building these products together and trying to build tools for people who love creating content and help them make the best quality content they can, make it as easy as possible for them to do that, and give them additional tools to engage with their audience, right? To create that two-way, because that's the beauty of live. versus kind of pre-recorded, content is that you get to actually engage with the audience in a live environment and get that live feedback from them.
Yeah. I mean,
So that's me waffling about my background there for about 5-10 minutes. So
no, I'm completely fine with it. Like I did not know like you were the creator of Player.me. Like which is interesting because I still like for my layout on my streams, I stream on Twitch, occasionally on YouTube, but my overlay and everything is from Player.me. So it's such like it is when it comes to streaming, trying to create overlays, like there are so many places where you can just like, you can use Photoshop and After Effects to create like your own custom overlays and stuff like that. But for me, when I got into streaming and content creation, I'm like, I don't know where to start. And I remember one of my friends who is a streamer told me like, hey, go sign up for Player.me. And then my wife, who also is a full-time streamer and creator, like we both signed up. And it was just so simple and easy to use. Like it's drag and drop interface. You can do customization. Do you want tickers going? Do you want the follower count? Do you want the sub count? Like it's such, and I still recommend it to people today. I'm like, when they're looking to start, I'm like, it's the most simple and effective thing. And
thanks, man.
And I absolutely love it.
That. Wow. I appreciate that. I wasn't involved in building it, just involved in kind of doing the business stuff around it, right? So like I'll tell the engineers and the designers and everything that they did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, even with the overlay that I'm using now for like this podcast, like if you see like the windows, like that's from Player.me. Like I basically took two webcam images, and I did a side by side with it. I did the overlay with the background, and then I just did the green screen and cut out the part where you can see like you and I, and it's just it's such an amazing platform. I absolutely love
it. Appreciate that. Well, we've actually, we've taken because Player.me has so many different moving parts to it. Mm-hmm. What we've tried to do is, I don't know if you've seen our Gamecaster product that we released. We updated it completely fresh about 9 months ago at this stage. But what we've done is we've taken that kind of overlay system, implemented it directly into Gamecaster. The overlays in there obviously are like kind of tied to Gamecaster, so you need to use Gamecaster as a streaming solution, like application as well, to use those overlays in Gamecaster. Whereas Player is kind of a little bit more agnostic. You can use those overlays anywhere, basically. You don't need to be using an XSplit streaming application to be able to use them. So, but, that was all taken from the learnings that we got from Player.me, and we've, probably tweaked the overlay system in Gamecaster slightly based on the data that we've seen from Player.me to make it even easier. And the ultimate goal with that application was effectively, yourself, creating content, especially live, and even pre-recorded stuff is really hard. Yeah. It's hard in terms of the technical elements, like all the stuff you need to know and learn to make really good quality stuff. The software that you need to learn to, all the quirks and kinks and features and everything like that. And then also obviously like building your audience everyone thinks that, you just go live or you create video and everyone just wants to watch it, right? Yeah. No, you're basically a one-man business. You're an entrepreneur who's learning all the skills that you would need as a regular entrepreneur to build your product, to make the product quality as high as it can possibly be, and then to find audience, right? To find people who want to engage with that product. And that last part is always, people don't underestimate how hard that part is in every business, right? And so, us as XSplit, we don't have the platform, we don't have a Twitch, we don't have a YouTube, we don't have a Facebook. So we're not the people who are able to maybe get you that audience. We try little things to try and help you, get that audience, those audience numbers up that will help you to stay passionate and stay engaged. But where we really have an opportunity is on the product side to make it as easy as possible, help you make as your stream look as good as possible, like offering these overlays to make it as easy as kind of click, drag, drop, for you to create something that looks professional. And then at least you feel better about what you're doing. And then hopefully the audience comes, right? Because our industry has a high level of turnover. People come, they want to be huge. They spend 2 weeks doing it, and then they bounce out when they realize how difficult this is, right?
Yeah.
So like people like you have managed to stay the course, and you're reaping the rewards of that, you know, because it really does take big commitment, you know, a lot of effort, staying consistent, all those kind of things that is difficult for a lot of people. So again, congrats, man.
Yeah, and you know, I frequently get invited out to the different universities here, from University of Hawaii or Hawaii Pacific University, to speak to the college students about, because there's this growing desire from college students and young people to get into, you know, what we're doing with broadcast media, with Twitch or with YouTube or with podcasting. And you know, it's kind of interesting because like when I think back to when I hopped into it, it was still like kind of mainstream, but not to where it is now, where everyone's like, hey, if I got a computer, webcam, microphone, I can just hop in and do it. And one of the things, like I over the last couple of years I've been speaking at the universities, is I continue to tell the students that, look, if you're going to do this, if you're going to be a content creator and you want to, you know, be successful, just understand it's not an overnight thing. It's like any business, like any type of startup. You're going to have to invest in it. You may be running in the red for several years, but you know, that return on investment, if you truly dedicate yourself to it, the ROI is definitely going to be fulfilling, you know, payout. And for me, like, I literally left my full-time job as a senior system analyst to do this, and it was rough, you know. And I tell the students, like, it was very rough going from almost 100K. Well, no, I was making over 80K a year doing that, to this, where I'm like, I was struggling for many months, and now it's like, it's consistent. Am I the hugest streamer? No. Am I the hugest YouTuber? No. But I get to work with the gaming industry, something that, like you, I'm a kid from the 80s. Growing up, 80s, 90s, that was something you didn't think was even a possibility. You'd read gaming magazines, or, you know, you see the cartoons and the advertisements on TV, but working in the gaming industry or working alongside it, that was that was not something people ever thought they could do. And in this day and age, like, you can do that now. And, you know, I've told the students, like, it's just, you got to stick with it. You got to dedicate, be consistent, you know, constantly upload. Like, not, I know some people that upload 4 or 5 videos a day, and I'm like, that's a quick way to burn out. A couple times a week, 2 or 3, if you're streaming 2 or 3 times a week. Learn how to market. Like, I went to college for marketing, advertising, and PR. And when I graduated, that's when we had like the whole recession that hit. And I was like, oh no. Crap.
Yeah, I feel your pain.
But yeah, like, you know, it's marketing, it's advertising, you're effectively a business. I put up a tweet earlier today. So I was up for 38 hours. I did 6 video reviews, 6 podcasts. I published 2 videos, and, you know, updated my website, was on conference calls. But I don't have a team, but I am that team. And I'm so dedicated to the craft that I'm willing to work harder than the next guy to be successful. And you have to be hungry and want to succeed if you're going to do this. It's not an overnight success. And yeah,
absolutely. and the other aspect there is, like, I mean, I even noticed when we were communicating with each other, and it's kind of like you were answering emails, and I don't know what time it was in Hawaii or whatever, you were really accommodating in terms of timing, of, like, you know, setting this up and stuff like that. And it was impressive, because I was there going, okay, this guy is actually, you know, he's willing to be up at 1 a.m. to record this thing. and that's honestly, that's the difference between people who and there is a very fine line between success and failure. And you know, failure is never, like, I've failed multiple times, and it's not the end of the world, because you gain so much from it. But it's then about like, do you come back and try it again in a different format or some other kind of style? But the most important thing as well, alongside kind of, you know, the commitment, the ambition, the passion, the hard work ethic, all those things that you mentioned, is that you need to be passionate about the subject, or that needs to be part of what you do, because it's the other thing that's going to keep you going. If you love it, if you love the content, or if you love the subject matter, if you love whatever it is that you're creating, then it won't feel like work, right? Most of the time it won't feel like work. There's always dog's body work that you have to do along the way that's going to feel like work, but the good stuff is going to be worth the bad stuff, right? So and then there's too many people, I feel, in the content space specifically now, because it's been so democratized, and like everyone is able to go out, as you said, and create YouTube videos, and you know, the requirement for equipment and all that, everything's been lowered. The bar's been lowered in terms of what it takes to go out and create your content. That there's a lot of people who are focusing on trying to figure out where is a space that is blowing up that they can attach themselves to, rather than what's a space that they're super passionate about, where they can start to build an audience because their passion comes through. And you know, we see that a lot in gaming as well, right? Where there's people who are playing specific games just to jump on that hype train and hopefully get noticed as, you know, or be one of the first people who is streaming the new big title, so that they can then hit ninja levels, right? And it's not about them actually enjoying the game. It's more about them just wanting to hit on the next big title. So, you know, from my perspective, whenever I'm asked by anyone in terms of content, any kind of content business, because it's a creative art, and with creative arts, you need to have passion to be able to deliver something that the audience is going to engage with, I think, right? You can't fake that. And so, you know, that's the other piece that I would say is super important, that you just follow. Even if it feels like it's a very tiny audience and it's a niche, you never know. That niche could turn into something big, and then you're the leading voice in that space if you've done it early, right? So that's my take on it.
No, I completely agree with you. I know, you know, a lot of creators, both large and small, and many of them, I understand it, because at one point I have done it, but I try to tell people who, both, you know, big and small, and those who are interested in getting into this field, that you literally do have to have a passion for this. Like I love interviewing people, you know, I love interacting with people. I'm originally from Western Samoa, so for me, English isn't my native language, but you know, I'm typically, you know, introverted and nervous, but it helps me reaching out to people and feel some very, very interested in or passionate about getting to understand things. Because, you know, for a kid coming from a farm in Samoa, like a lot of this is like, man, it's, you know, people in Samoa, like this is not something that they would think of doing. And so I'm here to want to show people in Samoa, people here in Hawaii, people in the rest of the US and around the world, that if you have a dream or a desire to do something, pursue it. You know, just have that passion, keep hacking at it, and keep going at it. And with what I'm seeing with people in the gaming sphere, when it comes to streaming and trying to be the one playing the trending game and trying to be the first to do this, it's kind of funny, because a lot of people that I know actually resent that they're doing the popular thing, because they're like, oh yeah, I got the numbers, yeah, I'm getting this, but I don't really care about this. And to me, if I don't have a passion for it, I can't do it. Like I just, and
you burn out a lot quicker, that's for sure.
Yeah,
because it's taking out of you, it's taking energy out of you every day. Whereas when it's something you love, it gives energy back. It's kind of a cycle, right? Where you get replenished by, you know, good days that you have on something that you love. They're the things that keep you going longer. So it's, as you said, it's extremely like the startup world, where you have people who create startups in a space that they see an opportunity, but they don't necessarily have the passion for it, right? And they just burn out quicker. So
definitely. You know, so one of the questions I definitely wanted to ask you, I know it took a long time to get to asking this, because I'm just enjoying the conversation with you so far.
Me too, man.
So with all the streaming software that's available for, content creators able to, capture footage and stream, like, what is it about XSplit that both separates it from competitors like OBS and its variants and, other streaming software that's available on software such as like Media and Elgato products? Like, what makes XSplit the go-to choice for creators in your opinion?
So, I mean, I being totally honest, like in terms of XSplit versus OBS or Streamlabs and people like that, it is ultimately, it's a bit of a difficult one because it's almost like a race to the bottom in terms of features. We release something, OBS will release it, a couple of months later. They release something that we think is cool, we'll release it a couple of months later. So it's kind of there, I hate to say it, but like, innovation in the space, like something really truly unique and innovative, is kind of harder and harder because this is a product that's been built over the last 10 years, so like XSplit, released Broadcaster in 2010, and that was the first application that made it easy to capture gameplay, right? So we had a nice 2 or 3 year window before OBS came out, where then all of a sudden it was on competition, hardcore, just like, and we have a really good relationship with the OBS guys. There's a ton of mutual respect there, They wanted to provide something that was open source and free to the gaming community because gamers traditionally don't really like paying for software.
Yeah.
And we'd started a business. We have a lot of staff, and we've generated a lot of jobs and stuff like that, and we have to pay people, right, for their work. So so we went a different route, and we kind of went the route of freemium, pay for a subscription, get the extra features. So in terms of a feature set, like there's relative parity there, right? There's we're always trying to innovate and do new things and do things better and release new features, and we really do listen to the users in terms of like every single user counts. Every single bit of feedback we get is fed through the company. We do have that 24/7 support. So what we would always say is, if you're really taking it seriously, if it's something where it's super important, it's your job, right? You can't have your stream drop, you can't have technical issues for too long, then we're super responsive. Right, and that's the only kind of difference I think we can say is, like, if you come to us and there's a deal breaker problem or whatever, our team are on it like pretty much 24/7 to try and fix that for you so you can get your stream back up and running. That's your business. We understand that's your business, and so it's very important for us to make sure that you can continue to run your business as if we're a key component of it, right? So I think that's one of the areas where, and I'm not downplaying OBS or anything like that, because they are not a commercial entity. They can't pay salaries for people to be there and deal with those things and respond like that. And also they have way more users, right? Because they're free. So, that's kind of one of the headaches that comes with being free, is you get a ton of users, and then you can't be as responsive to each one. So, that's where I would say that we have a strength, is that if you want something that you're effectively going to get a quick response, you're going to get some kind of action on your issues, we're the ones, right? But at the same time, on a product level, they're fairly similar. There's different UIs. There's some people like specific features that are on XSplit versus OBS and vice versa. So, we've kind of have to acknowledge that it's a personal taste thing, really, a lot of the time too. But again, a lot of our customers are paying customers, would probably be businesses and people who want to just pay that extra bit to make sure that they know that they can get that kind of customer service straight away. At the same time, we're constantly building, like we're always releasing new stuff where we have, because we're a business and we're able to kind of invest a little bit in R&D and other sections. We have new products that come up, like our Gamecaster was, rebuilt from the ground up, has all these cool features. We really truly believe that is like the streaming application for 80% of new to medium sort of experienced gamers who are looking to stream, because a ton of these features that we have in Broadcaster are not really that necessary for the regular content creator who's not looking to get too fancy, right? Broadcaster has a lot of cool stuff for those ones who want to go that extra mile and want to really learn how to, you know, make a production pop. But Gamecaster is kind of that you know, easy to use tool that can deliver on 80% of the market needs, right? And then we also released a product called VCam. I don't know if you've seen that, where it's we kind of, you know, we use machine learning and AI to segment the background on your live webcam, so you don't need to buy a green screen. We try to have minimal impact on CPU. We come at it from a gaming perspective, where it's like, hey, if we're hogging up resources, which traditionally any kind of, you know, AI green screen has done, gamers are just not going to engage because we're taking up resources that they need for their game, right? So we've focused a lot on reducing impact and increasing performance of the actual segmentation. And we have, like, our VCam that's out right now is pretty good, but we have one coming out in the next couple of weeks that is like mind-blowing. Like, your whole setup there, it's going to pick out the mic, your head. I mean, I was using it yesterday, a test version, and I was lifting my headphones off my ear and taking them away, and it was still picking them up. And it was seeing, even though my hair has gone kind of COVID lockdown style, very heavy here, it was picking up little spaces between the headphones and my hair and showing the background that I'd selected.
Wow.
So, and it's very low impact on the CPU. So, I mean, like, we're making huge advances there, where I feel like it's never going to be necessary to have a green screen again, which is saving a lot of hassle, especially for the new creators who don't have a studio set up and don't have, like, the resources. We're saving them hopefully like $99 or whatever it costs to maybe set up that green screen, right? And then we have, like, our video editor product, which we kind of spun out of Broadcaster. We have a couple of other ideas on products that we're releasing. So I guess that is kind of maybe the difference for us as well, is that we're trying to create an all-encompassing content creator business, where we're giving you all the tools. We're trying to help as much as we can in terms of giving you easy to use tools that can help you do your job. Whereas, you know, an OBS is very much kind of a streaming application, and that's it. And you know, we're trying to kind of fill that whole tool chain with little bits and pieces that you might need to do your job. So
yeah, definitely. And like I said, like, my wife and I, we both utilize XSplit, you know, both Broadcaster and Gamecaster, and I utilize the VCam because my wife, Lehua, she's got an Elgato green screen, which originally was supposed to be for me, but whatever's mine is hers. It's just how that works.
I know how that works. I know all about that. I've lost tons of stuff over the last year. It's like electronics are all over here in her area of her desk.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, like, she utilized it. So when she streams and when she does her she also has a podcast of her own, and so she utilizes that. So I was like, okay, I need to utilize something, because I don't want to take down her setup and move the green screen to me. So I've utilized that for the last several months. And, you know, quite honestly, I used to be a user of OBS. Like, I was using it, and I will admit, and this is not to bash OBS in any way, but it's not very intuitive of a platform. It's definitely something you're going to have to take time to figure out, like, what does what, how do you route the audio, how do you route the incoming audio, outgoing audio, how do you gauge the levels, how do you put make sure that the game capture is capturing correctly. Like, it's very much something that it took me a while. Like, I'd probably say like a week and a half to fully understand what all the different intricacies of OBS are and the limitations. Like, I can only stream to one platform or another, and then if I want to switch what platform I'm going to, be it YouTube, Mixer, Facebook, whatever, I have to go in and manually log into each one, and then if I'm going to go to this platform, log in, switch everything around so that it's there. Whereas with XSplit, literally, I can log in once for all of my outlets, and then it's easy. It's drag and drop interface. I don't have to manually sit with things. Like if I want to enlarge like the screen capture of my my game I'm streaming, or if I want to run, like one of the things I actually started doing to separate my podcast from others is if I do it live, I actually use this platform on top of XSplit, and I'll just do a screen capture, run my intro through through XSplit, switch to the just chat and sing, switch to the podcast, switch to the outro.
Yeah.
All super easy and efficient. It's not taxing on my computer. It's able to do multi-streaming, which is something I am so grateful that you guys have. Like, because I usually stream my podcast to both YouTube and to Twitch simultaneously for both my audiences, and you guys make it so seamless and easy to do. Like, I don't have to buy, custom RTMP platforms and services. So I your guys' platform, honestly, it powers everything I do, from my podcast to my live streams and my content on YouTube. My wife and I both utilize the video editor, which is so simple and easy to use, because especially as a content creator, trying to get video editing software or Photoshop or streaming software, all that adds up. And to have one platform that can take like 80% of the load off your shoulder and just allow you to do your work easily and efficiently and not have to worry about crashing or bugs, it's such a godsend. So I really want to say thank you to you and to your team
that.
For yeah,
we appreciate that. I mean, I hear you, but at the same time, like, we still feel like there's a lot of ways that we can make that even more intuitive, right? Because again, like XSplit, like Broadcaster specifically, was kind of built 10 years ago, and we've built on top, like building blocks. And there are people out there like yourself. You're the early adopters when it comes to content creation. We're generally like techies, right? People who like technology, who like to tinker with things and figure stuff out and achieve something because they they worked at it. But like when you start hitting that kind of mass market thing, which, as I said earlier in the show, I kind of feel like we're getting to that point almost, and like COVID has helped push the curve further up, right? But like as we get to that point where it becomes more mass market, there is less of a tendency to want to try and find cool stuff rather than meeting it right there, and like even easier. So, again, OBS is awesome. They've done an awesome job in offering a free tool to the audience, like, because they've basically helped to grow the whole space, right? We always feel like, OBS didn't kind of take up our piece of the pie. That they basically just grew the entire pie. We together grew this pie into a bigger thing, right? And so there are people out there who just don't want to pay for software, and they have OBS, and they're going to spend the time to figure out how to make it work for them, and that's cool. We are actually really grateful. We're a sponsor of OBS. Like, we're grateful that they're in the ecosystem, that they're doing these things for the gamers or any content creators who just want to get up and running and they don't want to spend any money, right? Fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have, again, with the fact that we're a commercial entity, we have the resources to be able to put that extra polish, that get the designers on it and really kind of try and focus and nail that stuff as much as we can. Just because we do happen to charge for it, and we do have paying customers, thank God. So that keeps everyone in a job still. So we're delighted. But again, we do really like the OBS guys. We think what they've done is awesome, amazing achievement, because they are incredibly competitive in terms of the product and the technology. They with the resources they have, they've done an incredible job. So shout out to them.
Definitely. One of the things, like, I wanted to ask, given that XSplit does have paid tiers, like you've got the monthly tier, which you can do it anywhere from, I believe, 3 months or 6 months, 12 months, or you can do you can buy out the license outright.
Yeah.
Like with regards to I guess the financial aspect of that, like deciding on coming up with tiers, how did you guys decide on that? And as well as offering a lifetime license, which I'm going to get one eventually. I'm on the monthly tier. My wife has a lifetime, and she keeps saying, "You need to buy this." I'm like, "You get mad if I buy another video game or controller? Are you okay with me spending $200?" She's like, "Yeah, just get it." Are you sure?
I'm sure we can hook you up with some nice discount. But yeah, so in terms of how we came up with that and our pricing structure and stuff like that, I guess, we do have competitors in the space of like live streaming. Like effectively what we see Broadcaster as is like it's a production studio, right? With it on your laptop. It's effectively like a switcher in a major production studio, where if they're doing the news or whatever, they would have like a super complicated system. We've kind of boiled it down into this piece of software that sits on your laptop or your desktop. Now, so we have competitors on the high end, like, the Wirecast, the vMixes, people like that who are doing this kind of software for large companies, or, and they charge a lot more. What we wanted to do was make sure that we made it affordable for the core demographic that we serve, especially in the early days, which is the gaming audience. These are the people who really adopted live streaming very aggressively, very early. And so we wanted to make sure that the pricing was affordable and not like, not price gouging and making it like really painful for people to engage, right? But at the same time, like the lifetime license thing, I think is just an awesome deal, because most people who do like lifetime or software deals effectively give you that version, and then you have to pay for updates and stuff like that. Whereas we're kind of like, you get it for free for life. Any updates that we provide, you get them as well. And so like in terms of pricing, it was not very scientific. It continues to not be hugely scientific in terms of what we do. We do use data now. We do kind of try and figure out what's the sweet spot for, maximizing return, but, making sure that we're getting as much adoption as we possibly can. So we do try and kind of get that right, that balance right. But at the same time, it's to a certain degree, it's kind of licking your finger and putting it in the air and figuring out how quickly, what way the wind is going, right? So, we know that we're missing big opportunities probably on the enterprise business side of things, where businesses look at our software and they're like, and I've actually had it where I'm at a conference, and it's more a B2B like media conference where you've got big TV studios and stuff like that. And they come up and they're like, "Oh, we had a look at XSplit, but like, what's the catch? The pricing, it's too low, and our procurement team will never go for that. It just seems like we're not going to get any support or anything like that." So they're effectively asking us to charge them more to make it more realistic. And so I know that we've lost opportunities. Sorry, that's my WhatsApp. Let me just close that out. So yeah, we know that we've, we may have lost revenue opportunity in a certain area because they just don't consider us, because they consider it like a consumer product and gaming, and it's not for them. But at the same time, we're more interested in kind of hopefully getting as many people out there and help. And that's why we like OBS so much, because they're the same, right? Get as many people out there creating content, discovering their passion, hopefully being able to make money from it and a career out of it, and find happiness through that, rather than maybe working in a job they hate, right? So that's the bigger picture for us, is like, yes, we need to make money, we need to pay salaries, people need to eat, but at the same time, we're very lucky and happy that we're able to do that at a point where it's like, effectively, if you buy a 1-year license, it's the equivalent of like a coffee a month, right? And so if you're not willing to spend coffee a month for your career in content creation, then you've got to question whether you really are into it.
No, that's true. I'm just scared. My wife. She said it's okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it.
No. You're like me. You're like me. You're a commitment phobe, right? You're basically saying, I'm gonna dabble. I'm gonna do my 3 months, 6 months, or whatever here and see how it goes. I'm the same with software. I'm always like, I put me on the 1 month plan, even if it's gonna cost me double. Put me on that 1 month recurring.
Yeah, but no, like honestly though, at the prices that you folks are offering, it's very competitively priced, it's very fairly priced, and very affordable. The different tiers,
That's a big
whether
stuff.
you want to do 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 9 months, lifetime, because you frequently have a sale for your lifetime license.
Yeah.
It's usually
Yeah.
around $200 US, and I I highly recommend. And I'm going to. Yeah, I know my wife's gonna. She's okay with me. It's just it's just if I buy stuff like I bought this microphone. This microphone was like $200. She's like, "Why'd you spend that? You have a Yeti. I want better
I need to get
quality."
myself one of those.
Have you seen
I have.
like the skyrocketing prices for microphones and cameras lately?
Listen, I mean, it's we talk to obviously like the Logitechs and the Razors and all that. They're just running out of stock. The demand is so high. I see like webcams are selling for like $200 on eBay and stuff like that. So it's kind of crazy. But again, like I feel like what we're experiencing, or what we have experienced over the last 3 months, has accelerated us on the natural trajectory that we were already on, where you've got people who were kind of holding back on committing to virtual meetings and or teleconferences or web conferences or whatever, who were kind of saying they didn't have the time or whatever to create new content or talk about their passion. Like my fiance is a doctor, and now she's wanting to maybe start creating a show a bit like yours about medicine, right? And so you have all these people who are realizing more and more the potential for online communication, distribution of their experience, their knowledge, all that kind of stuff. And so I don't necessarily think it's just because people are doing Zooms to each other. They're like going out and buying Logitechs like mad and buying all the Razer Kios up. Yeah. I think it's and the microphones and everything. They're buying professional grade stuff because they're starting to see, I could use video for my business to do this or that or whatever, And so it's great for the whole space, really. I think I was probably expecting this kind of growth or explosion outside of the gaming space for content to kind of start maybe in like 3 to 5 years, maybe 2 onwards. But it's accelerated, and I think no matter what, the world has changed in terms of what we do.
Yeah, and honestly, right now I frequently get asked like, oh, when should I start a podcast? When should I do YouTube? When should I stream? Now, the time is now. More than anything.
I don't know who said the quote, but I always say it to everyone whenever they're like, what should I? It's like, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now, right? Yeah. So like you can never sort of say it's too late, right? Because then you'll never get around to it. You should have done it 5 years ago, but today is the next best time to do it, right? So just do it, go for it, try it out. And like everything, the startup stories I was mentioning a bit earlier, like everything, you will probably fail. You may not hit your sweet spot in the first go. It may take a little bit of tinkering. You might have to release multiple iterations of your podcast or your video series or your live streaming kind of brand. But if you keep trying, you'll find something that clicks, and then you're not doing it for any other reason than you enjoy doing it, and then hopefully the audience comes with that.
Yeah, definitely. Being completely respectful of your time. I know you have a very, very busy day. It's for the audience who doesn't know, he's in the morning time. It's late night for me. I'm a night owl. I stay up all the time. I probably sleep 2 hours. I'll lay down, and 2 hours later I'm like, yep, I'm fully rested. Let's get back to work.
Damn, I'm the opposite. I need 8.
But like being completely respectful of your time, winding down to the last couple questions. Are there any plans to bring XSplit to Mac OS or Linux for native usage? Like I know a lot of people usually do like if it's a Mac, they'll do like boot camp or Parallels and then run Windows and then put it on there. But no. So
again, like based on the kind of acceleration that we've seen in terms of the adoption of live streaming and content creation tools, like obviously Mac has kind of moved up the ranks in terms of importance for us because you know, being a more gaming focused streaming application, gamers don't generally use Mac, so you know, the majority of our market is on PC. But you know, we are releasing a Mac version of VCam, probably fingers crossed by the end of next month.
Awesome.
So that's kind of our one of our first forays into Mac. We're effectively building a Mac team to try and figure out how we can bring some of our other tools across to Mac. Like we have some legacy issues when it comes to Broadcaster. It's a lot harder to do some of the things that we do on Broadcaster on a Mac, you know, computer. But and OBS have done it, and I think they've had a lot of headaches trying to do it, and it's kind of a pain point for them still. So what we may do on Mac may not be so gaming focused, but it'll allow people to create. You know, we need to really engage with the Mac community and allow people who are using Macs, who generally tend to be quite creative people, to create content too, right? So that is definitely on our roadmap. When it comes to the more broadcaster solutions, I cannot give you a timeline there, but I can say that it's become quite a strong focus for us, and VCam is coming soon. So
okay. Other question I have is like for you, like what is it like for you, like a typical day for you in your role as the chief commercial officer for XSplit? Like how hectic or how fun, or what's the typical day like for you?
So it's become a lot more hectic recently because things are very busy right now. But you know, it's interesting because I would say, like, over the last 3 years, a typical day for me would have been, you know, like obviously I would talk to a lot of partners. I would deal with people internally to try and make sure, you know, certain projects that are either with partners or, you know, that are important for certain types of users are getting pushed along, and dealing a lot with, you know, management internally and stuff like that. And so the time difference is always interesting because, you know, most people are in the Philippines. So it would generally be like when I was in LA, I'd wake up and I'd just have tons of stuff in my inbox, and my Slack channels would be rammed full of stuff that I'd be reading. And so my first, and then what I would generally have is a bunch of calls with Manila or, you know, other places in Asia first thing in the morning, and then catch up with all that stuff, and a big period of quiet in the afternoon when they were all asleep, and I could do some things maybe more locally, go to meetings and things like that, and then it would all kick off again at night. So I generally work kind of like a 12 to 14 hour day myself, interspersed with moments of quiet. But the majority, and also over the last couple of years, a lot of travel, huge amount of travel. Like I had a passport that I got, and within 2 years, every page was covered in stamps. So I was just traveling like all the time. But nowadays it's a lot easier. I just sit around, I do conference calls with partners, big clients, you know, potential people that we want to work with, either, you know, to use their technology for a new product strategy, things like that. So it's a day that is probably 50% meetings, 50%, you know, answering emails, doing pitch decks, putting presentations together, trying to get access to particular partners that we'd like to work with and stuff like that. So it's never the same. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of always changing.
Awesome. It keeps you on your toes. I like it.
I love it. And I get to work in a super creative field. You know, I still get to do tech, but I love digital media. I love content. So, you know, this is a space that I'm super passionate about, and I'm just blessed to be able to work in it. But like we've said throughout this thing, is you make your own path by effectively, like, everyone nowadays has the power to say, I want to go into that space. Too many times people put the blocks in their way themselves by saying, oh, it's not possible. That's like a walled garden. I'm not going to be able to get into that industry. You know, you can break that down. You can create a podcast. Like if I want to get into the music industry, I create a podcast on music and I talk about music that I'm passionate about, and I interview people. People are always interested in sharing their story, right? So reach out, ask people who you really want to talk to come on your show and have a chat with them. Build your network like that. All of a sudden, you may have a voice that people listen to, and you become important in music. And you always thought music is, and I know music. I've managed a band for a while, one of the hardest industries in the world, but you can make your way. You can do it. You carve out your own space there, and then all of a sudden, you didn't need someone to give you your first break in that space, right? You can create it.
Yeah, definitely.
And I managed to do that. I was a banker. Like now I'm like dealing with content creators all day and you know, dealing with techies. So it's cool.
Awesome.
I used to use Hotmail, you know, like 10 years ago.
Oh man, like you look back on like how technology has advanced in the last 10 to 15 years, like especially like with smartphones. I remember when a smartphone was like a Palm or a BlackBerry. And
oh yeah,
I
love the BlackBerry. I wanted that so bad.
Like you knew you were doing
email
business
on your phone,
right? It's like the kids nowadays are like, oh, you can take camera, you can take pictures and surf the internet. I'm like, yeah, back then you could only do that with the BlackBerry or a Palm OS, and that was the status symbol.
Yeah, seriously. That's when you knew someone was a bowler, when they'd be walk out and pull out a BlackBerry. You're like, oh,
right?
Shit, that guy's important.
Oh man, it's just crazy when you look at how like things are changing and like things that we have now, like being able to watch videos on phone or stream live.
Yeah,
you know, it's crazy. Just
and movies, you know, movies
Yeah.
being created with the phone and stuff like that. You know, it's like that's the beauty. Everyone has this device now in their pocket that is a HD camera that, you know, and also it's kind of it's doing so much more than just like for creating, you know, content or creative stuff. It's about like visibility and transparency as well, right? You have people now filming events that are unfolding, that are incorrect, and you know, we've seen like recently in the States with you know, this police again being filmed doing something that you know, and they still tend to get away with it, but you know, at least there's accountability to a certain degree, and the people are kind of rising up against this whole thing because there's more phones, literally more phones showing what's going on. The one area where I'm surprised that phones have not really developed kind of this widespread proliferation of content is in UFO sightings. I used to believe in these things, and then all of a sudden, like when there's loads of phones, there's less UFO sightings. What's going on? So I'm like, if those things are out there, there's people with phones everywhere now. Before you used to have a camcorder, there'd be tons of video all over the internet, right?
Oh man. Winding down to the last 3 questions I have for you, again, to be respectful of your time. No worries, what do you often get to work with content creators, like in regards to like requests and whatnot? And if so, like what is the process like for you? Like what are your typical interactions or business deals, if you're allowed to share that with creators?
So I think we do in multiple different ways, right? And I work with the marketing team and John Marshall, who's our CMO, a fair bit, but I'm not kind of involved in the nitty gritty of any of the kind of discussions with creators. You know, I had been previously, and generally speaking, what we do is obviously like we get a lot of people who reach out to us, a lot of creators who reach out to us asking if we can help with this or that or sponsor. And we do sponsor, you know, or I think we still sponsor all the Twitch meetups and stuff like that. And we try and help the community as much as we can, just in general. And I don't think we're kind of those people who only look at numbers. We look at like if people are doing cool stuff and we try and get behind them and we try and help them in whatever way we can. But in a more like, we listen to our creators. We have the XSplit Elite program where we have kind of people who are using XSplit who are starting to move up the ranks in terms of, content creators. They're starting to get more and more of a market share or like more of a voice. And so we try and support them in different ways too. And then we go all the way up to kind of commercial agreements which we don't do a huge amount of, but we do a little bit of kind of sponsoring of, content that is relevant to us. And hopefully, we always try and make it authentic, right? We're never going to ask a creator who doesn't use any of our products to just, hey, do a statement that like XSplit is cool, right? We always try and make it so that any creators that we engage with either are using our product already and they're a big fan, and it's just about supporting them a little bit further, or that they are open and excited about using our product, and we can help them get there and maybe support them to a certain degree whilst we do that. So ultimately, in terms of our engagements and interactions with content creators, it's very much based on authenticity. It's like, if you love our product and we love your content, then there's going to be a great fit, and we'll figure out how that works, whatever way, whether it's from just supporting you grassroots level to financially supporting the content that you create.
Okay, cool. And business questions and all that, push to the side. Let's talk about you. What are some things that you?
I thought that's what we've been doing for the last while.
Yeah. Well, we've been interspicing it in and out, but like I'm very curious because you mentioned music. I have a background in music. I love music. I want to know, like, what are some of the things that you like aside from like music or just even including music? Like, what are things you enjoy outside of work that people may not be aware
of? Well, I mean, there's nothing kind of hugely out of the ordinary. Like I'm a huge fan of music and film and TV. Literally, I think my time is, and I used to be someone who would play soccer. You call it football for us. I don't do that so much anymore. I need to get back into that, but I watch it a lot, and I'm quite into sports and stuff like that. But there's nothing kind of out of the ordinary. Like I love traveling. I love seeing places. I love seeing different cultures. I kind of like doing adventure sports and, bungee jumping, skydiving, things like that. But I've dived with great whites twice, like doing, yeah. I mean, my parents, I was blessed that my parents lived in Africa for about 10 years. And during that period of time, when I go out to visit them, there's an incredible amount of things you can do out there, like that many people don't realize. And one of those was, going down to South Africa and getting to dive in cages with great whites. And thank God there was metal there, but it's a pretty awesome experience. But yeah, I'm generally kind of like the day-to-day film, TV, music. That's it.
Cool. And last question I have for you is like, is there any advice that you'd like to leave the audience with who may be interested in getting into, your field or getting into, I guess broadcasting? Well, we've been giving that advice all day, but if someone wanted to get into like your field, like what you're doing specifically, what advice would you give them?
So, I mean, I think the best bit of advice that I probably would have given myself if I could go back in time and sort of start over. I don't regret anything I've done. I mean, all the mistakes that I've made have really made me better at what I do. So I don't have any issues with that. But I think to kind of fast track your ability to go from, starting point to a place where you're very knowledgeable and you're able to command, a decent salary, decent title, decent, people, your experience will bring weight wherever you work. The best way to do that is to go and work for a startup, that is on a growth trajectory, right? If you can pick a good startup to work for that is not like a super big company, but like is, maybe at the 50 to 100 employee stage, maybe a little bit more. You get in there early, you learn from people who are like, I hate to sound big-headed in a way, but like me, who've had the knocks and who've taken the hits and who've, learned from experience and can pass that on rather than you necessarily having to experience it yourself. And you can kind of just go in there and watch how it works and be part of that. And if that thing grows into something special, then you were an early part of that ride. And it's always going to benefit you in many different ways, probably financially, definitely experience-wise, career-wise. And, like going it yourself from the start, like doing it yourself, like doing your own startup straight out the gate, like I kind of did and kept doing over and over again, is the hard way. That is the hard way, because you are learning and it's costing you money and it's costing your investors money for you to learn, whereas you could be learning and making money by going and getting a salary and working with someone who's been through that pain already. So that's the kind of advice I'd have given myself, is like, chill out. You don't know everything. You need to learn a shitload more before you can you can go and do this thing yourself, right? So be humble, go and work for someone, and when you do that, pick something that you really like. Pick a product that you love or that you use yourself every day. Like I've heard so many stories of awesome people who effectively like used a product very early in its life cycle and email the CEO and say, "Hey, I love your product. I'll do whatever. I just want to work for you. I'll do an internship. I'll be free, and I just want to work for the product, and I want to work for you, and I want to get the experience." And these people end up having insane careers because they have that hustle, but like find a product that you really like and just email and say, "Hey, can I work for you?" Or find a job within the company that fits your character and the career path you want, and go for it. But yeah, that would be my advice, is like get a 2-3 years under your belt before you go and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Unlike me.
Well, I lied. I actually have one final question for you.
Okay, let's do it.
Did you have fun?
Man, I had a lot of fun. I haven't done this that often, and yeah, this is cool. Very chill, very good vibe, man. So I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things in the pipeline for XSplit going forward, and I'd love to have you back on the show if you'd ever be interested in coming back on. And
sure.
and would you like to tell people, like, you want to promote anything or put any plugs out there? Feel free to.
No. I think that we're releasing again, hopefully a new product in the coming months. So. I'll send you a new version of VCam when it comes out, so you can test it and you can see how awesome it is. And then I'll send you on the new product that we release once that's ready. I think it's going to make life a lot easier for a bunch of podcasters or content creators. So maybe after that we'll have another chat and we can talk about that product. But I'm happy to just chat. I'm not here to plug anything specifically.
So tell people where they can find XSplit, because they can find you on XSplit.com, also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I don't use Facebook anymore, so I'm not too sure. Okay.
Who does? No, I mean,
I think do I know people still?
Facebook gaming is growing apparently, so there must be more and more. But yeah, I'm more like Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I use a bit. It's because being a business person, that's a requirement.
Yeah. So, with that being said, people, you can catch this episode of the Kasanova Podcast along with many others that are available on every major podcasting platform. You can catch it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio. I know I'm just going to read it off. I see it right there in front of me. Spotify, Pandora. It's also available in video format on both YouTube and Twitch. And also, if you want to support the podcast, we do have Patreon, which helps basically whatever you guys invest into me, I reinvest into the channel, the podcast, the streams to create higher and better quality content for each and every one of you, including podcasts such as this. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please, I'm much really telling you guys, utilize XSplit. Try it out. You know, it's an amazing platform. I use it. It powers everything that I do. My wife uses it as well. And it is truly an amazing platform. And again, Sean, I want to thank you and your team for creating such a fantastic product.
Thanks,
and
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And with that being said, this is Sean of XSplit and myself, Miguel Kasanova. We are signing out. You all have a great one.
Hey, did you enjoy this episode of the Kasanova Podcast? Well, I'm sure you did. And since you did, and you're wondering where else you can find it on every podcasting outlet. Yes, that includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Launchpad DM by Podcast One, and so much more. And the only thing I ask of you is if you truly enjoyed it, even if you didn't enjoy it, please leave a rating and tell us what you thought of it, what you like, what you didn't like, and everything in between. And also, if you're looking for video formats of this podcast and many more, you'll be able to find them on youtube.com/Miguel Kasanova, as well as on twitch.tv/Miguel Kasanova, and new episodes every single Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, with that being said, this is Miguel Kasanova, Hawaii's favorite YouTuber. I am signing out. You guys have a great one.